Hey guys, welcome to Titanium Tuesdays on Propelio TV. Today we're going to talk all things title related to real estate investing. Today I'm sitting down with Sandra Hickey and Megan Pasterick.
Yep, you got
there
it.
You go, I got it. That's going to be the hardest part of the whole show for me right there. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, so they're both from Lawyers Title here local in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yes.
So why don't you all kind of introduce yourselves and tell us what your roles are at Lawyers Title.
Perfect. Well, my name is Megan Pasterick. I'm in charge of sales, business development for Lawyers Title. So I work with realtors, investors, lenders, really anyone in the real estate field, whether it be marketing or putting them in contact with escrow officers that can help them get those deals done. But yeah, that's really my role for the company.
What about you?
My name is Sandra Hickey, and I am an escrow officer at our Dallas office. I'm also the branch manager, and I handle investor contracts. I handle contracts, resale contracts all over, a lot of refinances. I also can close in 43 different states, and I have a really long background in foreclosure too.
There you go. So how do you get licensed in 43 different states? I mean, that's amazing.
It's through Fidelity.
Okay.
I work with Fidelity and through their title companies.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the things we were talking before that, what are we going to talk about today? What's going to bring the most value? And I think some things are just kind of assumed in this industry and not really ever talked about. So first, I want to go down to like the most simplest of things. What is title? And why do we have to use title companies, and what do y'all actually do for the closing of transactions?
Right. Well, like we said, title's not sexy, so you just know you have to use it, but nobody really says why. Right. So I think that it's really important to have a title company, first and foremost, with good communication skills and someone that's going to keep you in the loop throughout the transaction, whatever that may be. But, I mean, Sandra's more involved on the day-to-day with the transaction, so I think.
Yeah, and basically what title insurance is it's you're paying a amount of money for a product that you are getting completely clear title. So you walk away with a title policy that states everything's been taken care of. And so it's just like having car insurance.
Right.
If anything happens, you take your policy in.
So give me an example of when you would actually utilize the title policy and say, hey, something came up. What are scenarios where you actually cash in, I guess, the title policy?
Okay, well, there's a number of different ways that you would cash in your title policy. One of the more frequent ways that we see is that you go to closing, you have your title policy away in your closet somewhere, and you have 3 liens on your property that you've already paid off at either a refinance or your previous closing. And what happens is you hand that title policy, and our underwriters automatically state they take it off. They delete it for us. Then there's another way, is if there's any kind of issues that there is a lien that was never caught at the closing and it's still on your title, you can take your title policy and that will clear it.
So
you'd have to do a claim against the
right.
The
I've
policy.
always had that question. Mm-hmm. How could it not get caught? I mean, how does that happen? Because it almost seems like this endless loop of where it's the title company's responsibility to catch it, and then I'm paying you in case you didn't catch it.
Well, basically, what they do is they do a certain year search, and
Gotcha.
Hopefully within that search, everything is caught. And I would say 99% of the time it is, but there's always that 1% that may not get caught. Or there's also a period, like maybe a 2-week period, that you get your commitment and something else has been recorded.
Right. And
that's why we run bring to dates and we run other things. And we also have documents that they sign at closing that are affidavits stating, I know I have nothing else on this file,
Gotcha.
on the property.
So let's talk about, what does this cost an investor or even just a regular home buyer or during a refinance? What are we actually paying the title company, and what are we paying in just regular fees like recording fees and taxes and things like that?
Right. So I mentioned earlier, we actually have an app that we provide to our clients. It's called Lawyers Agent One, and it's in the App Store, whether you're an Android or Apple. But it kind of takes that, oh, I think it'll be about this amount.
Right.
So we have numbers already programmed in there. We do make exceptions. We do work with you because at the end of the day, it's a business. You want to get the deal done. We want to get the closing.
Right.
So we're in the business mentality. We're all in here to make money, but we are fairly flexible with those fees. But I think you have to be self-conscious of, am I spending $100 to get something done and hope it's the right way, or am I spending $1,000 to get something done and yeah, it's going to be more money, but it might be the best way to get it done. But in terms of fee range, I think that's really kind of what you decide. And
what we do is, it depends on the amount of contracts we get from an investor, how we kind of can lower the fees a little bit.
Well, real quick on that, what do you consider volume? So for an investor, if I'm just getting started, at what point in time do I feel comfortable enough to go to you and say, Sandra, I'm bringing you volume, can you cut me a break on your escrow fee?
Right, and I look at it as, if we get 1 or 2 a month, then we kind of keep it at, what we usually charge everybody else. But 3 to 10 a month, that's really good, and we can lower it to work with the investor.
Right, and then also the important part to know is that yes, it's good to work with a title company that's investor friendly, and you can get a discount because you're bringing volume. But it's also about building the relationship. You understand how my business now functions. I understand how you function. That's also very important. And I try to, no matter what market we're in, find one title company that's the one that I'm going to use. So I'm not having to establish a new relationship every single time.
Correct. And it's really important, when I get a new investor, what I do is I start it from start to finish. I don't give it to a processor. I do it myself, so I see how they like to work and how they want to be communicated with. And it's really important to me to make sure they are in every step of the way, so they know what I'm waiting for. They know when we can close. They know they're ready to go.
So the things that an investor is actually paying the title company is the escrow fee and the title insurance policy. Is there anything else that we're paying to the title company?
No, we actually have a one-time fee, which is our escrow fee. Instead of charging all the different line items, we charge one fee. And that's something that we can work with. That's about the only thing that we can work with, because everything else is regulated by the state.
Right. And I mean, there have been times, and I appreciate the fact that y'all have that one fee, because there's been times where I've looked at settlement statements and I'm like, I've closed hundreds of deals. I don't even know what some of these things are. Is this state regulated? Is this the title company?
The printing fee.
Right.
Right. I mean, you're just looking at it and it's like, that one's $78 and that one's $159, and you add it up and it's like $2,500 just evaporated in thin air, and I don't even know what it is. So I appreciate that y'all have that one fee.
Yeah, and I think the only fee that's going to change is going to be your title policy fee, your policy fee, which is going to go off of the contract sales price.
So I know y'all have the app, but for just this conversation's sake, is there a percentage that you should use to figure out what the title policy is?
Well, I actually have a little card that I send out that you can calculate it that fast.
There you go.
And it makes it really easy. You can do it right on your phone, on the calculator. It's super, super easy.
Awesome.
And then we have the app too, so you have either way of doing it, or you can send me an email and I'll give you, within 5 minutes, I can tell you exactly how much your fees are going to be.
That's awesome. Cassie, I think we had a question from one of the guests. Dustin says, does having the title policy clear title for lenders?
Yes, it just depends on what it is, but yeah, when you have a clear or a title policy, we can take it to our underwriters, and they will, if they need be, they can file a claim, or we will make sure that it gets taken care of.
What are your thoughts about when an investor has an off-market lead and they ask you to run title without having a contract on the property?
And that all depends on how many contracts that we get from them and how we feel like that's going to actually come through.
Right.
And we don't have a problem with that. It's just we don't want to get 5 or 6 or 7 of them and then nothing ever ever happens. So
I mean, it's kind of like asking a realtor to pull comps on properties and you never actually close the deal with them.
Right.
We say it's a case-by-case basis because we'll have some people that take advantage of it, and we have 15 open title requests and no contracts, but then we have someone that's like, I don't know if I can ask you this, but is this okay? And we're like, yeah, of course. So, I mean, we don't say, hey, let us know, we'll pull it, but at the end of the day, it is something that we can do.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is if they ask you to pull title on it and they don't get the contract, I'm assuming y'all would hope that they would respect your time and come back to you and say, hey, that deal fell through.
Exactly.
Because I'm assuming you have some kind of portal that's showing you have open title on the property and you're like, what's happening?
And it's nobody's fault. I mean, things happen all the time. So we just, and that goes back to communication. At the end of the day, we just want to be communicated with. Y'all just want to be communicated with. So those open lines of communication, the more open they are, the better off everybody is.
Right. So guys, we're talking about title, and I really want to dive into all things that you guys have questions for. So please drop the questions. These are the guys right here that are going to give you all the answers. Someone just asked, John said, how can I get the formula to calculate the closing costs? Download the app. What is
Lawyers
it again?
Agent 1. It's in the App Store.
Lawyers Agent 1. And then also send Sandra a contract, and I bet you she'll give you that little card.
I actually will do it even if you don't send me a contract.
There you go.
So. However, I would like to get a contract.
Right. We're all in this business to make money, and that's how they make money. So let's talk about the expectations from the title company of an investor when they send you a contract and it comes back and there's multiple affidavits of heirship needed and things along those lines. What do you expect from the investor?
What we'll do is, if you'll give us the contact information for the actual interested party, we will go ahead and contact them first, send them an heirship questionnaire. Now, when we get back, how we go back to the investor is if we don't get any communication from the actual interested party. Then we have to get you guys involved and see if you can get with them. But most of the time, we're pretty good about getting everything taken care of before we even need to come back to you. But in the end, and what we do is a lot of times we will go ahead and if we have an investor with a lot of files with us, we give them a weekly update. So they have a spreadsheet that's sent to them with all their files and where we're at.
So we've got a good question from Wade. I love this question. This is like one of those questions where it's like he's coming right out with it.
Okay.
Why would a title company not do a double close?
We do double close.
Depends on the title company.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a lot of work. It's more work than, and a lot of times it's passed through, so you don't make a lot of money on it. However, you get more orders in from more investors by doing this for them.
Right.
So in the end, even though it's a lot more work, you have 2 open files, you end up getting a lot more files. So yeah, we definitely do that.
And I think there's a ton of value that a title company receives from an investor when you do double closes, because what you're essentially telling an investor like myself who does high volume of wholesale deals, you are protecting how much money I'm making from my end buyers. And whereas that's not a shady thing, it's not like I'm embarrassed by it, but I don't ever want my buyers to have any kind of contention on RJ just made $50,000 on a wholesale fee. You like the deal at the numbers that you were buying it as, and when you do assignments, there have been plenty of times where that scarcity mindset comes in and it's like, whoa, you're making $50,000. Well, you loved the deal 30 seconds ago when I told you what the price was, you know? And the double close enables you to not disclose how much money you're making there, and it's a huge benefit for the wholesaler.
Right.
And like you also said, the pass-through as well of funds, and that's one of the reasons Lawyers Title was the first title company that ever closed a deal. And I tell this story because it's one of my favorite ones, and so
I hope it's a good one.
It is a good one. I went to an education seminar, and I was told in order to do a double close that I had to bring transactional funds. And the escrow officer at Lawyers Title said, you don't have to do that. We're just going to do a pass-through. And for the next 14 days while we waited for closing, I called her twice a day, and I was like, Dana, I'm going to show up to your office, and I'm not going to have a check. Am I going to look like a jackass? Because I knew nothing, you know. It was like I went to education, and they told me this is how I do it, and I'm like, it's just too good to be true. There's no way in the world I'm going to show up, I'm going to sign 2 documents, and they're just going to write me a check for the difference. And that's what ended up happening. And I always look back at that moment, and I'm like, I was so ignorant. I had no idea what I was doing. John says, can you do the double close and have the wholesaler pay for it on the second close? So I'm assuming he's saying pay for the title policy on the second close?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. I'm assuming you're asking because you're the end buyer in that regard, because if you're the wholesaler, I mean, you don't necessarily want to pay for it. And also, when you do a double close, are you charging double the title policy and double the escrow fee?
Well, what we do is we charge a certain amount in the first file, the AB file, and then the CD file, the second file, what we do is we charge the buyer the cost for the first file, so it's a wash.
Gotcha. Matt Smith says, how do you get a title company to close a wholesale deal if they say they don't do them? Hold on, I got this one. Don't use that title company, and use a title company like Lawyer's Title, Fidelity, wherever you are. I mean, you should be able to find a Lawyer's Title or Fidelity, and they close wholesale deals.
Reach out to us. We're happy to provide those locations too.
Yes.
Ace asks, do you offer blind HUDs?
Blind HUDs.
So
I've never heard of that.
We don't know, Ace. I don't know.
Kind of blind in this question.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just asking and hoping they knew. I told them I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to title stuff. So if you want to rephrase that and like kind of ask us in another way of what a blind HUD is. Jeremy Dimmer says, if similar underwriters are used, are you able to write policy out of state, and how would that work?
Yeah, we could do, we do closings out of state all the time, and we use different title companies. Fidelity owns quite a few different title companies.
Yes.
So, yes, we can.
It's actually amazing how the reach Fidelity has.
Oh, yes.
It's nice to be associated with them.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember the first deal that we ever did in Seattle, Washington. I was like, okay, we got it under contract, and we were going to get it under contract. My realtor's like, who do you want to use for title? And I'm like, find a Lawyer's Title. I know if we do that, they'll let me do the pass-through on the double close. And I remember I had like a 45-minute conference call with the escrow officer because they had never been asked to do a pass-through of funds. And so I sent them like 10 HUDs from here, and I was like, I just want you to duplicate this. And they were blown away because they had never seen anybody do that before. And it worked until I got the double excise tax. And that just crushed me. I thought I was going to make all kinds of money, and then the excise tax got me.
Yeah.
I think we got some more questions there, Cassie. Can you throw those up there for me?
They're up.
Can you throw them up where I can see them? Matt Smith, the small town I'm in said they don't do wholesale. I guess I could try a larger town's title company. Yeah, Fidelity, a Lawyer's Title. I mean, you should be able to find those. And the other thing is the title company does not have to be close in location to where the property is.
Right.
I mean, the title company that I use here in Texas, we use for Austin, San Antonio, Houston. I'm sure you close deals just like that. So don't think that the proximity for the title company matters at all. And if the buyer or seller has a problem with the location of the title company, how do y'all combat that?
Well, we basically get on the phone and talk to them and explain to them that we can close anywhere. We can send a mobile notary to them. We can find a title company that's close to them that we can either have a title officer close them or send a mobile notary to that location. We've got it covered.
Yeah.
How much does a mobile notary cost?
Well, that's a good question. Because usually for a buyer, it's about $200, and for a seller, it's about $125, but we can also work with you on that. So
here's the reason So Matt Smith's located in McCook, Nebraska. So that's, yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere, but wherever you're wholesaling or buying deals, wherever state you're in, find that title company, create that relationship with that title company, and then from there you should be able to, like she said, work with you on the escrow fees, work with you on the mobile notary fees, and also just understand that when you're paying a mobile notary, so like here, if I close a deal in Houston, I'm willing to pay for the mobile notary to make sure that I use my title company, because what you learn is by using another title company, that could cost you far more than a mobile notary fee in just your time and the communication or the lack thereof by the title company. You know, I've had people say that the service from my title company that I use is not as good as I say it is, because on their first deal. And it's because, well, it's because it's your first deal.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go on the first date with somebody, it's not like you're married.
Right.
I mean, I'm married to Dana. You know, it's like we've been doing deals for 4 years. I don't even really, we don't even have to talk. It's like just boom, 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 and
That's
it's
the way
done.
it should be.
You know how
Right.
each other works.
And so that's why it's worth paying the mobile notary fee, and
Right.
that's what you get from a solid, you know, title company.
I've had a lot of closings throughout the whole entire nation, and they will call me and they'll go, "You're in Dallas? We didn't even realize you're in Dallas."
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, Ace explained what a blind HUD is. It's where the seller only sees the seller side and the buyer only sees the buyer side.
We do
Yes,
that all the
yes,
time.
Yeah.
Yes. I've never heard it called a blind HUD
yeah.
before.
Me either.
We've always just referred to it as the buyer only sees the B2C side, and
Right.
so forth.
Each
So,
other sees their side.
Matt Smith, does it have to be the same state? No, Sandra right here, she closes in 43 different states. So why don't you reach out to her after the show and see if she can help you out. John says, can you explain the double close process? And what I meant by my earlier question is if you do a double close, I buy a property and close on it and immediately sell the property to someone else, can I pay for all the closing costs at the end of both transactions?
Yes.
So
You can.
for me, a double close, I only refer to a double close as the pass through, A to B, and that's funding B to C. Well, maybe you can explain it better.
No,
but-
that's exactly right. So what we do is we open up the purchase of the property. We don't charge a title fee on that one. And what we do is we go ahead, and when the purchase price is, let's just say it's, you know, $10,000 or whatever it is, and then we close the second one at the same time, and then we just transfer the fees over, and it pays for everything, and you get, you know, whatever's left over gets wired out. And
There are a couple fees that you have to pay for twice, right?
well, the escrow fee is paid in the beginning, so you'll just probably have your escrow fee and the recording of the warranty deed and a warranty deed fee, and then the rest goes to the second,
Right.
the pass-through, yeah.
So it's a little bit more expensive to do that than an assignment, but
It's
I
much
mean,
easier.
yeah. I mean, do you prefer that over an assignment?
Either way, I've done both, so it just depends. Sometimes when you have an assignment, you do get a lot more questions,
Right.
and people ask, you know, what is this for, and they don't really understand it. But, you know, I'm pretty patient and sit down with them and talk to them about it. But either way, it's
So this
it
has
works.
kind of always been my thought about it, and from someone experienced as you are, maybe tell me if this is a right feeling that I've had. I've always felt like, because when we do double closes, I have more control over the contract, which is what I'm selling. I'm not selling a property, I'm selling a contract, than I do when I assign it. When I assign it, it's now gone.
Right.
It's in that
Correct.
end buyer's hand. When I
Correct.
double close, I'm still in control of my original contract with the seller, which is what we're in this business to do, right? Help sellers, and sometimes when you do an assignment, you're really hoping that your end buyer does the right thing.
Correct. Correct. That's exactly right.
And when you do volume, just go ahead and prepare yourself. that the end buyer is not going to do the right thing 100% of the time. There's going to be times where they back out the day of closing.
Oh, yes.
And that's why, you know, double closing has always been such a passion of mine. It's how I learned how to do it. And really, going back over the course of hundreds of deals, the ones that I've only ever had really negative experiences are when I did assignments.
Yeah.
So I think I saw a couple other questions up there. John said, let's say I buy a property for $200, close on it, and I sell it for $250,000. So I guess you're asking there, what would the fees look like? Like she said, there's going to be a couple of small, pretty minuscule fees on the first close, and most of it's going to transfer over to the second close.
Exactly.
Let's see, what's Sandra's last name, or at least her company's name? Hickey, Sandra Hickey. It's up in the title, and she's with Lawyers Title.
Yep.
And what's that app again?
Lawyers Agent 1.
Yes. So. Everybody download that. It's very.
We're not mathematicians. We're just in title, so that'll make our lives a lot easier. But yes, it helps a lot.
Yeah, that helps out with finding the closing costs, and then also, like Sandra said, she'll share the cards that she has that kind of calculate the closing costs. So let's talk about going back to the issues that could come up during the title process. So we send a contract to you. Outside of affidavit of heirships, what are some other issues that could come up that you would need an investor to step in and help you clear title?
Well, there's many different ones. There's foreclosures. There is sheriff deed sales, which is really tricky because those ones have state requirements, they have underwriting requirements, so we have to check those all out, make sure that the redemption period is ended and all that. So that's issues that we find. 70% of them is deceased owners, I would say. That's the biggest one. And really, I've had some nightmare ones to where we've had the father and mother have passed away. There were 5 children. One of the sons had passed away. He had 3 children from his marriage and one outside of his marriage that was under the age of 18. And I mean, yeah, there's some crazy ones, but you know, we were able to get through all that and we had to get a court order for the minor to have his mother sign on his behalf.
My goodness.
And yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
There are very few things that surprise Sandra at this point.
No, very few. Well, I come from foreclosure. So you can imagine, I've heard every story in the book.
Right.
Every story.
Right. So real quick, I kind of want to make a quick announcement. They have been generous enough to bring a very awesome giveaway today. Why don't you go ahead and make the announcement? What did you guys bring us?
So we have 2 Mavs tickets up for grabs, I guess, if you want to call it that. So perks of being owned by Fidelity, I guess. We get the good stuff.
And the great thing is the Dallas Mavericks are actually good this year.
Yay!
So if you haven't been paying attention, we're actually decent. We're back. Okay?
It's a game worth going
to.
to.
We're back. Yeah, the past couple of years, it hasn't been much to watch. So, so we're going to come up with a trivia question. I'll probably do that towards the end, and it's going to be something that they've already discussed. So I'll drop a couple more times in here so you get the answer, and then it's going to be the first person that gives me the correct answer. Looks like Russ Keith picked me. Russ, stay tuned, and you're just going to have to get the answer. Yep. I think Kelly Smith had some good questions. The title company is another critical piece to your team. A good one makes life so great, while a bad one makes you want to roll over and die. That's true.
Thank you.
Kelly said, down date endorsements seem to be the new add-on charge that title, as well as hard money lenders, are charging. What's the story? And what did they usually cost? Because I've seen borrowers' HUDs from other lenders include $250 each.
Wow. Okay, down date endorsements are basically when you have a construction loan and you have the lender holds back money, and so every time you get an updated policy to bring the amount of funds that you've already received onto your policy, and we charge $25.
$25. Marcia Young says, when there's multiple heirs, can one take responsibility and sign off for all of them?
No. You have an interested party and you have 2 disinterested parties for the heirship affidavit. But however, you have to have every single one of the heirs will have to sign a deed over to that one person in order for that one person to take control of everything.
Now, this kind of goes back to good title companies and doing things the correct way. I've heard stories, I've actually been a victim of this, to where I had a property under contract and I was trying to do things correctly. The seller became disgruntled, found another buyer, found a title company that would do things incorrectly. Is that something that you have seen?
Oh yes, I have seen it. And then the title company goes out of business.
Right.
So you really need to make sure that your seller understands that you need to have this all completely cleared prior to, selling the property, or they're going to come after them.
Yep. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to have closing nightmares of title, and then also we're going to drop a couple more hints in there about our giveaway, and then we're going to talk about, we're going to answer Matt Smith's question of, can you tell us a story of a nightmare close? We'll be right back after these questions. Guys, welcome back. We're sitting down with Sandra and Megan, and we're talking all things the good, bad, and the ugly of title. Like Megan said, title's not sexy, but I think it's a huge part of our business that a lot of times we don't ever talk about because it's not sexy. And if you've ever been privy to a deal that couldn't get done because of title, then you realize the importance of it. We got a quick question here from Marcia Young. She says, what if an heir cannot be found?
Okay, so in that case, what we do is we, have to make sure that we've done like a skip trace. There has to be some way of showing everything that we've done on our end to try to find these people. Then we take it to our underwriters and we go from there. And they let us know whether it's something that we can move forward with or if it has to go to court.
Gotcha.
And they have to take it through court.
So I think Brandy has something to tell you.
Oh, okay. So it's changed a little bit. So we have 4 Mavs tickets now. So you get to bring 2 more friends if you win.
4 Mavs tickets. All right. So do we want to give it away to 2 different people and give 2 away?
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair for one person. So
right.
Let's go ahead and give away the first set of 2.
Okay.
How many states can Sandra close deals in? First person, first one I see. How many states can Sandra close deals in? 5. You're right there. Come on, pay attention.
You have no excuse.
Kelly said 2 sets of 2. You're right. Let's see. Russ Key said 2. No. Oh, I think we got it down at the bottom.
I hope so.
I think we got it. Nope. Oh, there we go. Maria Martinez is our winner. 43.
Yay.
Good job, Maria. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, there you go. So Maria is our winner of the first 2.
Perfect.
Maria, make sure that you send Propelio an address. Send them a direct message of your address so we can get those tickets to you. Man, look, there's a bunch of people coming in with the 43. They were just.
Oh, now they know.
I know. It's okay. We've got 2 more that we're going to give away later in the show, and.
You can thank Brandy Dosser, one of our many attorneys at Lawyers Title, for that.
I love Brandy. Brandy,
she's amazing.
Yeah, Brandy and I have done quite a few deals together,
yes.
done business. Jeremiah says you can use a genealogist, I guess, to find an heir. Have you ever been a part of a situation like that? No? Mm-mm. I know a lot of investors that have done this. My good buddy Greg Helbig, he's like 12 years old, but I joke. He looks like a child sometimes. But he's an awesome investor. He was in New York, now he's in San Diego. He's just living a great life. And he gets some of the nastiest title properties, and he uses genealogists to track down the heirs.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, it's a pretty crazy what you can do. So
do
let's talk about, Matt Smith wants to know one of your craziest nightmare closings as a escrow officer.
One of? That's assuming there's...
Yeah.
I had, this is kind of a crazy one. We had a closing where the lender died the day of closing. It was a hard money loan.
Oh.
And he died the same day we closed. And we had no one to pay the money off to, to pay off to. So we had to hold everything, and we had to wait until it went to court, and they got an attorney that then was able to give us a payoff, and we got it all taken care of.
Wow.
I know, that was kind of strange.
Yeah, that's different. I think we got a really good question from Bill. We might make a deal go down here.
Oh.
Bill says, I have a property under contract in Michigan that is in the redemption period. Can you close this type of deal?
In the redemption period?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't think. It just, you know, I'd have to look at the state statutes and see kind of where it's at. And then see if, and that's something that I can work on and work with my underwriters on to see if we can get it cleared, but I'd have to look and see what the statutes are.
Bill, why don't you send it over to Megan and Sandra after the show? I'm sure we'll get contact information and see if they can help you guys out.
Well, and Sandra kind of hit on this, but I don't think we emphasized it enough. Being under the Fidelity umbrella and being a direct office for lawyers, we have a direct line to our underwriters, which not if you're using an agency or a smaller boutique style title company, not everyone can reach out to their underwriters directly and say, hey, can you rush this? Can we get this through? Is there any way we can make this happen? And so that line of communication, again, is really important because we can get some deals done that other places may not be able to just because of that communication that we have.
Well, let's talk about the business development side of things.
Okay.
I know you have some really cool things that Lawyers Title has been working on and that you have that you can offer to investors. So why don't you talk about that for a second?
So I feel like the word of the real estate market this year is technology. I mean, everyone's talking about it, whether you're on the residential resale side, if you're in the commercial side. I mean, everyone wants to know what kind of tech do you have. And being with lawyers, that's so great that they're making the investment into technology. I was at a summit a few weeks ago where the bigwigs of Fidelity and lawyers were all talking about the strides that we're making to be that resource and to be that company. So whether it's our apps, we have data lists. I mean, we really try to be a resource for our partners. My background's in marketing and graphic design, so I work with a lot of my clients in that side as well. But I say whatever we can do to be a resource for you, and I think I mean that when I say that. And my cell phone number's on my business card, it's on my email. I mean, if you need to get in contact with me or Sandra, you can. Well,
let's talk about lists. You said that that's something that you offer, and I think that's like, you know, I go to masterminds, I go to these events, and the number one thing that investors want to talk about is what's the new hot list and how are you stacking lists. So how can you utilize your title company to get lists, and what are you offering? So
we have different companies that we've partnered with, whether it be inside Fidelity or outside of Fidelity, that provide lists, whether it's foreclosure lists or contact info. I mean, we have ways to get phone lists and phone numbers, not non-owner occupied versus vacant homes, whether the homes are truly sitting vacant or if it's just a non-owner occupied. I know there's a difference between that as well. So it's really, if there's a way for us to get it, we'll figure it out. So if I come to you and I say, hey, Megan, I want, you know, all of the properties in 76137 that are non-owner occupied, and I want their phone numbers, that's something you can provide to me? We'll talk about it.
And is that something that you are providing to people that are bringing you deals?
Relatively. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a resource for people. So it's not a, hey, send me business and I'll send you this. It's how can I help you grow your business? Because if you're doing well and we're providing a resource for you, we just hope that that comes back to us.
Gotcha. So Matt Smith asks a question here. He says, if a lien is found, whose responsibility is it to get it removed? from the houses I've purchased, the title company did all of the contacting. Should I have stepped in and tried to speed the process up?
No, we take care of all of that. The only time that we will reach out is if we cannot get a hold of the person that we're trying to get the payoff from.
Gotcha. And on that note, John, do they provide lists? Yes, they do. Let's talk about if I get a property, a lead, and I want to do a subject to. Is that something that you are frequently helping investors with, and what role does a title company play in a subject to?
So we don't have a lot of those. I haven't gotten a lot of those, but that's something that I'm open to, and that's something that I can, read up on a little bit more and get more used to those, but we don't get a lot of those.
So typically the way I've handled subject twos in the past is I ask my title company to open title only when I know that the seller is open and willing to do the subject to. So at that point in time, I say, okay, we're going to pull title, and we're going to make sure that the only liens that exist are this actual first lien mortgage. And then I tell my title company, look, you're going to hold that open for me. I'm going to take this subject to. I'm going to do whatever value add, or if there's not value add, get it rented, and then I'm going to use you for the refinance of it. So it's really, they're providing me a service up front, knowing that they're going to get the refinance closing on the back end. That's really the only way that I've figured out the best way to do it. John wanted to know, do you deal with pre-foreclosures?
Yes, we do. The hardest part of a pre-foreclosure is getting the payoff from the lender.
Right.
And so, I had somebody reach out to me the other day and said, hey, I have a home I want to purchase. It's in foreclosure. It's going to foreclosure on Tuesday. Can you do everything in one day? I said, there's no way. That would be a miracle in order to get the lender's payoff in one day. So that's the hardest part, is getting the lender's payoff, and sometimes we have to involve the seller in which to call up and get that for us because they won't give it to us. But I'm all for the pre-foreclosure. I understand foreclosure like nobody else, and I know the ins and outs of it. However, it just takes a little time sometimes. So you can't give it to us a week before.
How much is a good amount of time for you to handle a pre-foreclosure?
30 days. 30 days, I probably could get it done.
Okay.
Any closer, if you like 2 weeks, it's hard. It's very difficult.
So Melody, who is a short sale expert here in Dallas-Fort Worth, she wanted to know, how many short sales have you closed?
Maybe 10.
So
yeah, not a lot.
Not really. Is that something that you have purposely chosen to not involve yourself in?
No, not really.
Because I've noticed this. Like, the short sale world is like this small little community, and they really enjoy it.
Yes.
It's like you're a glutton for punishment or something.
Right.
We had Nicole Espinoza on last week, and she was talking about short sales and going back to the pre-foreclosure and how long that takes. She brought up a great point on when, as the investor, if you're in the house with the seller, have them call the bank and get that payoff right then and there. Like you said, involve the seller to get that payoff, because otherwise, it is a very lengthy process to get someone else to get that payoff.
Yes.
And we have escrow officers in the company that thrive on foreclosures. Like you said, it's that small world.
Right.
So if you want their contact information, reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide that to you as well.
Cool. Matt Smith says, is there a place online to quickly check liens? How does the title company check for liens? I assume you check county records.
Yes, but it's all done through, we have a title plant. And we put all our information into the system, and then they have their experts that go in and they go through, county websites, and they get all that information, everything that's recorded under that legal description.
When you send the title commitment to the investor, what should we be looking for on the title commitment?
basically the first thing you're going to want to look at is who it's vested in, who owns the rights to that property. Then you're going to want to look at Schedule C that has all the liens on the property. And what we do is when we send out the title work, we basically tell you, this is who's vested in the property, this is how many liens are on the property, we're in the process of getting this payoff, we're in the process of getting this payoff, this has a common name, we're going to have to do a search on this name, we'll need like social security numbers, driver's license numbers, anything like that to get that removed.
Right. So going back to my story about subject twos and how I handle those, I will tell a title nightmare on my end. I think it's so important for us to share the bad along with the good, right? So frequently we see in today's day and age on social media, it's, you know, hey, look at my check, look at my, you know, awesome house that I just flipped. Well, there's a lot of things that go into the good, and there's sometimes where very bad things happen. And we had a situation, it was the first property that we ever took subject to. And so we're trying to wrap our heads around how this actually works, right? All the paperwork, we're making sure that title gets pulled, and then we're making sure we're filing the deed at the county correctly. And you know, I've never done this before. I've never walked down to the county clerk and said, here's my notarized deed, hope I did it right. You know, this was all nervous. And I asked my escrow officer to pull title, and she pulled it. She sent me a title commitment. She wrote me an email back that said there are 2 liens on the property. There's the first lien mortgage for exactly what he told me it was there for. And then there was a second lien for $35,000. And it was right there in Schedule C, like you said. And for whatever reason, this did not mentally register with me that what she just told me is there was a second lien for $35,000. And so we took it subject to. We paid on that mortgage for 24, 25 months. And the whole time I'm thinking, we've paid this down to $98,000, $97,000. We gained $30,000, $40,000 in appreciation because of the market. And so I went to do a cash out refi, and I sit down and we were doing 6 or 7 properties at the same time. And I get to that one and I'm like, I'm expecting $40,000 cash. And it was like $4,000. And you know, I have a really good relationship with my escrow officer, and I'm like, nah, rejected. You messed that one up. Do the math again. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, RJ. Everything's correct. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be getting like $40,000. And she's like, there's a second lien on that for $35,000. And so because of that mistake, I mean, $35,000 evaporated from my life. Like, there's no way I could ever get that back. You know,
got to be really careful.
And that was just a mistake that I made on my end. There was nobody else. So, got to be very careful. And that's why it's important to understand how to read a title commitment and actually doing it. You know, I look back and I'm almost embarrassed at how many times I've never actually looked at the title commitment. I've just trusted the title company to do it correctly. Right. Jeremiah said the wholesaler needs to talk to the bank and try to get a forbearance for more time to give the title company more time to find buyers. So what he's talking about is on the pre-foreclosure, going to them and asking for a forbearance. Is that something that you're?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of lenders have a really hard time, especially in Texas, of canceling that foreclosure sale and putting it kind of like on hold until you get everything done. They'll just tell you no. Right. It's very difficult to do. I mean, from where I worked for a very large lender, and you had to have, they wouldn't. It's very hard to do that.
Gotcha. All right, guys, we're going to jump to a quick commercial break. We got 2 more Mavs tickets to give away, so we're going to have one more trivia question and then do a little bit more Q&A with Megan and Sandra, and we'll be right back after these messages. right, guys. Hope y'all been paying attention because we're about to give away 2 Mavs tickets. First person that can name what the name of their app is that tells you closing costs, and it calculates it all right there for you. So when you're sitting down with the seller and you're trying to figure out if this is a good deal or not, you can calculate it right then and there. So 2 Mavs tickets, first person that can name their app. We've only told it to you 17 times in this interview, so we're hoping you're paying attention. Also, while we're waiting on y'all to drop those answers, love to get some more questions in. We've got a couple more minutes with Sandra and Megan. And we got Bill Love said lawyers close.
Nope.
Nope.
Sorry. You got the lawyers part right.
There you go. Lawyers Agent 1, Diane
yes.
Briggs.
Good job.
Oh, Ebony barely missed it.
Oh.
Oh, Diane Briggs is our winner.
Good
Congrats,
job.
Diane.
Thanks for listening.
Yep.
You get bonus points if you actually download the app too.
Yeah, right. Maria is like Lawyers Agent 1, but I already got tickets, so
Oh.
she's just dropping it in there.
Hey, I appreciate the listening too.
Maria's been a top listener today. Diana also. She almost won the first one, so
okay.
So that's good. I think she was the person who got the second answer in on
perfect.
the first
good.
question.
I'm proud of you both.
So Brandon said he downloaded it when you mentioned it, so that's awesome. We got people
Thank
jump
you.
on
Yeah. And I get the notifications for that typically, so I'll know
Yeah.
if you're telling the truth.
So we've talked a lot about.
Don't be like.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about investors building relationships with you guys and what that looks like. If I'm a brand new investor and I don't, or not even a brand new investor, I don't have that home for a title company, what's the best way for them to like try to establish that relationship with you guys?
I think you call us, text us, email us. We have offices Fort Worth, Dallas, Southlake, Plano, Frisco. I mean, we have locations all over the DFW area. So if you want to come into our office and sit down with Sandra and I, we can, whether it's run through a closing, ask question and answers for Sandra or some of our other escrow officers. I mean, we have the process down. We do this all the time. Sandra was on the phone for 45 minutes to an hour the other day with an investor just saying, hey, this is my process, this is what I do, and it's like you establish that relationship, because I have some clients that I work with that are like, just let me know when closing is, I don't need to know anything. And then you have some people that want to know if the other side breathes. So you just have to figure out that level of involvement, and I mean, we're happy to, I guess, grow with you.
One of the ways that I think establishing a relationship with a title company has been the strategy that I use, and I feel like it's been pretty successful, is respect the title company's time. They do so much work behind the scenes that we are not privy to, that yes, it's important to establish a relationship and have those lunch meetings and the 45 to hour-long conversations, but the first thing that I do is I send them deals. I send them a contract, and I say, here you go, close the deal. Here's the second deal, close the deal. And then I say, hey, you see what I'm able to bring to you? Let's sit down. Let's see if this is a good fit after we've closed a couple of deals. And now let's really fill out if we can bring all the volume to you. Right. That's what's been successful for us. Kelly Smith says, if no survey exists, how can boundary exceptions show up on title that require a survey to remove them? Feel like we're getting deep here. She's starting.
Yeah, well, you need
Nah.
to have a survey in order to have those survey exceptions. And that is a big, I mean, you really need to have that survey. And we can get really good quotes on surveys and get them done within like even 3 days, depending on the weather. But those, I mean, once in a while, we may be able to squeeze one through with our underwriting exception. However, you really do need the survey to get those exceptions.
I think some of these people are bringing these questions because these are specifically deals that are
I'm
process.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't, Kelly, did you just come up with that, or you got a deal going on?
No, I'm sure
like
that's,
that's funny. Jeremiah says, also send them cookies and presents if you use them so many times. You're absolutely right.
Cookies,
I'll be honest with you. I do send presents to my title company. I know, I think it was this year or last year, Dana, my escrow officer, on her birthday, I wanted to send her something. And I was like, we were going through a really stressful closing. And I was like, I'm going to send her a bottle of liquor as like a joke. And I was like, I'm going to see if there's a titanium tequila. And there was. And so I actually sent it to her. And so now she has this bottom of titanium tequila to match it. And I don't think she has ever drank it, but it's a cool little present. So.
Well, and I make the joke, there's actually people behind the computers. Like, you can talk to them on the phone and you can get emails from them, but they're actually human beings. So I think that level of respect is always really important to,
and you know,
to remember.
A lot of times too is I'll get phone calls all the time for people that just, I don't even care if it's my file. If they have a question and they need it answered, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to sit and talk with them.
And I think there's also times where there are questions about title before the contract's in place. I mean, sometimes sellers are upfront about things where it's like, hey, you know, I had a deal in Fort Worth, and it was one of those deals where I felt sad for the sellers because there was no money to be made in the deal no matter what. It was a lot in Fort Worth, maybe worth $2,000, and they were just paying property tax on it, which wasn't much, but the owner of it had died and supposedly passed it down to the aunt, and the aunt was dying, but she had multiple other siblings, and it was just one of those things where once they told me the story, I don't know if we're going to go down this path, so I called my title company and I said, hey, this is what they told me. And then the title company said, these are steps we need to take. And yeah, you're absolutely right. But again, this all goes back to building the relationship. I've said it numerous times since the first ever podcast that I ever did. Having a good title company and having a good realtor are crucial to being a solid investment company. Also, it looks like we're getting pretty close to 12, so if we have any other questions, or what is the best way for people to contact you and reach out to you guys so that they can do business with y'all?
We can put our phone number and our email at in the comments, I guess. So we'll comment with our phone numbers, our email addresses, but we're pretty accessible either way, so whatever works for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions, or is that what we got? John asked, Austin isn't on your app. Are there specific locations that are on that app?
We can get it added. I'll get it added for you.
Look at that. Just like
that easy.
That's how we're going to wrap up today. So real quick before we jump off here today, small announcement for me personally. I'm going to be speaking tonight at Ryan Jackson's meetup in Fort Worth. Texas Tuesdays. I'll drop the link in the comments. I'm going to be going over mindset and some of the things that we've been able to do at Titanium Investments to expand. Love to see you guys out there, so if you guys can make it, 7 o'clock tonight. He's also going to be giving away free bandit signs. There's going to be free beer. There's going to be free pizza. And hopefully in an hour and 15 minutes of me talking, I will say something worthwhile for you guys to hear. So Sandra, Megan, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, and I hope our guests did as well.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next week. Tune in tomorrow. Okay, you turned it off. No, we're still good. Tune in tomorrow for Grant to teach me something.
Thanks,
see you guys.